Drake London being mocked in the top 5 to the New York Jets. Is he worthy of going that high? Damarri Mathis, cornerback for Pittsburgh. What's the profile on him? And cornerback out of Alabama, Jalyn Armour-Davis. We're going to get into all that and more right here on the Locked On NFL Draft Show.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker, and y'all know what we're getting into today, man. We got 3 guys on the docket, and we're starting with USC wide receiver Drake London. Drake London out of USC, he missed half of the season, a little bit more than half of the season with an ankle injury. Now, the time that he went down with this injury, he was killing it. He was trending towards well over 100 receptions. The touchdown numbers were up. The yards were up. He was going crazy, and for an offense where he was the only guy. All right, now, is he worthy of a top pick? Because some of the mock drafts right now have him going as high as 4th overall to the New York Jets. I think that's where we kind of have a question, and we want to break down the prospect. Who is he? What does he excel at? And is he someone that should go that high? And I have a comp as well for him. All right, so we're going to get into that. But first, who is Drake London? 6'4" receiver, measured in a shade under 6'4", but 6'4", 220-pound receiver. Kind of profiles more like Kenny Golladay. All right, that type of size, that type of stature. All right, one thing that he has not done, and a lot of people are questioning this, his straight line speed. Didn't run the 40 at the combine. Hasn't worked out yet. I think USC just had their combine. He didn't work out there. He's going to hold a separate workout private, and I'm pretty sure a lot of NFL scouts are going to be there, especially if they have him going as high as some of the reports and mocks that we've seen from high up caliber guys, Daniel Jeremiah, Mayock, a lot of those guys. All right, but he hasn't ran his 40, and to be honest, I don't think he should. Kind of reminds me of a receiver that was drafted 9th overall, I believe, to the San Francisco 49ers, Michael Crabtree. And I think their play styles are very similar as well. Everyone questioned Michael Crabtree's speed, straight line speed. What's his 40-yard dash going to be? I think him running the 40-yard dash would have only hurt him. Would Crabtree still have been the 9th overall pick if he had went out there and ran, to say, a 4.63? Probably not. Probably not. All right, but regardless, he was a really solid NFL receiver. All right, when you look at Drake London, I think there are some similarities there. Their fluidity that they play with. Drake London is very fluid, especially for a 6'4", 220-pound receiver. I kind of compared him to my Crabtree, but he's much bigger. Crabtree, I think, measuring at 6'1", about 215 pounds. So this guy's definitely taller. And the longer your movements get, the longer your legs are, your height, all that, your movements are a little bit longer and have to kind of catch up. I think with what I've seen so far from Drake London, I don't know if it's his basketball background, but very fluid. I think in short areas, I think he's probably the best working in the sense of creating separation. I know there's going to be a lot of questions about the separation that he's able to create, especially downfield. And I don't know if that's necessarily his game. And I'll kind of talk about how, it really doesn't have to be. But when you watch him at the line of scrimmage, he does a really good job of beating man press at the line of scrimmage. All right. He knows how to set up defensive backs. He knows how to push up field, come back underneath. He knows how to use their leverage against him. He does a tremendous job of that, where he's on the outside or the slot. In 2021, before the injury, he lined up primarily on the outside, which was different than the year before. 2020 season, he was primarily a slot receiver. Now, how is he going to project to the NFL? Is it going to go back to what he was in 2020, where he was a primarily a slot, or 2021, where he's more of an outside guy? And if he's not an outside guy, how much do these NFL teams value that? All right. I think he's both. I remember listening in to Kyle Shanahan and him talking about what an outside receiver has to be able to do. And it's can you win vertically? Now, I think most people, when they hear that, they're thinking, well, to win vertically, you have to just be able to run by guys. And no, that's not the case. Obviously, like, yeah, you would like that, but you just have to be able to win down the field. And Drake London, one of his biggest strengths, I think most people would tell you, although I do like him underneath screens, things like that, making people miss, his ability to make plays at the catch point. He is terrific at the catch point. Probably, I don't know if there's a better receiver in this class than Drake London at the catch point. Now, there will be a lot of people that tell you, well, he has to win at the catch point because he can't outrun people. I would say maybe that's true. Yeah, but no, he can win underneath. He can win underneath just fine. He creates separation just fine there. But yeah, I did see the inability to really just run by guys. All right, so he's not going to be this guy that, hey, I'll just run a straight go route and you're just going to put a defender on your back and be able to stack him and have this big play down the field. No, that's not his game. But doesn't have to be, because he does a tremendous job with his body control, his hands, and really using his basketball background to make plays at the catch point. It's almost like he's boxing guys out and going up for a rebound. All right, does this consistently. And I always ask that question because a lot of people, they believe that receivers all have to win the same way. No, they don't. All right. Okay, I know we want to see guys with the pure separation. I know we want to see these big time route running skills. Cool. But not every guy has to win that way. And then you want to ask yourself, well, how does the way they win, how does that translate to the NFL? And when you look at Drake London, if he can continue to catch the ball, to catch one like he does, then he's going to be just fine. I mean, we look at a guy like Larry Fitzgerald, one of the most dominant receivers of this last generation. He wasn't this big time separator. He wasn't a big time separator, but he wanted the catch point. He had pure hands. He had sure hands. Drake London does as well. Don't see balls in the ground. All right, plugs balls out the air. And I'm not saying he's Larry Fitzgerald or what Larry Fitzgerald was at Pittsburgh. He was special. I remember watching him. All right, but there's some similarities in the sense of, hey, when it comes to down the field, I'm probably not just going to outrun guys on the go route, but I still have to win. I think his basketball background has helped him and hurt him. All right, a guy who uses that rebounding ability to go up and get balls, but also maybe not putting as much time into his craft as possible. And I think now, and maybe not year one because he's coming off of an injury, I think year two, especially that offseason, a guy who has now devoted all his time to football, I think we're only seeing the beginning of what Drake London can potentially be. Again, this is a guy who played basketball. And I know when you hear basketball background, you think you're talking about a high school basketball player. No, this guy played basketball at USC. This is the first year that he was like, okay, I'm not going to play basketball. I'm going to devote all my time to football. There are other guys. He's not the first guy to do that. You know, people forget this, but, Julius Peppers played basketball at UNC, was a really good basketball player. One guy that people don't even really realize he played basketball, DeAndre Hopkins. And how does DeAndre Hopkins win? He played basketball at Clemson. He wore an ugly number, 44 or 41, something like that. But how does DeAndre Hopkins win? Body control, sure hands. So there, obviously I threw out some great comps in the sense of Drake London, what he could be, but I think he's more of a Michael Crabtree type guy who's not going to outrun you, but I can win in short area quickness. And you know what? I'm tremendous at the catch point. I think Michael Crabtree was that too. So that's some of the things I saw in Drake London. Is he worth a top 5 pick? Still seems a little rich for me. But if he goes to his pro day, his private workout, and runs extremely well, maybe people will kind of lay to rest his ability to really outrun guys, which, again, I just don't think that's his game. When we come back, we're going to get to the next guy that I really watched and took some good notes on. Cornerback out of Alabama, Amour-Davis. We're going to get into his film and much more. But first, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about BetOnline. And right now, it's the college basketball tournament, and it's fully upon us. Of course, I watched the Arkansas Razorbacks beat up on Gonzaga. Did you put money on that? If not, don't miss out on today. You got UCLA playing. Where can you find all the lines? It's betonline.net. From the latest odds, contests, and player props, betonline.net is the number one source for all your sports betting needs and information. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. I know it's the tournament time, and there's a lot of money going on that, but it's your continued source wagering informational needs for all sports, and including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Head over right now to the website and use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. That's BetOnline, where the games start. We want to thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen of the day and every day. Make sure you're following the Locked On NFL with local experts covering the biggest stories around the NFL every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. All right, guys, let's talk about some of the notes that I have on Jalyn Armour-Davis. All right, we're talking about a cornerback out of Alabama, 6'1", 197 pounds, just shy of 31-inch arm length. So he's kind of hovering around that cutoff point for a lot of NFL teams, but I think his arms they're pretty much long enough. He ran a 4.3940. All right, now at the combine, everybody was running fast. I mean, it was a fast track, but just to show, you know what, I can run because he is a bigger body guy. Guys that are 6'1", 197 pounds, hovering around 200, you got to give them a little leeway. All right, especially if they have longer arms. You know, if you run low 4.5, you're cool. But I think running 4.39 definitely helps him. He got 14 reps on the bench press. That's tremendous. Vertical jump doesn't quite match the 40 because you can kind of see some of the explosibility there. 34 inches, that's kind of Eric Crocker range. I wasn't the best of athletes, but I jumped around 34, 35 inches on the vert. All right, some of the more explosive guys and faster guys are jumping more 37, 38. And obviously you see some guys, another guy we're going to talk about in a little bit, where he jumped even higher than that. But there were a couple things that really jumped out to me about Amour-Davis's film. All right, definitely a guy who he's a really good technician. I think he relies a lot on his technique. There were certain plays I saw, especially watching him in space, did a really good job playing off and whatever his coach told him to do, I thought he did a good job of executing that. There was a play where everybody's kind of pressed up to the left side. That was more to the boundary. He was to the field playing off. It looked like some sort of maybe a trap coverage or a two-man trail. He kind of sat at the sticks as a third down play and was put himself in position to undercut a route or play with anticipation to undercut an outbreaking route. The receiver had to try to fight through him. He stopped him and made a play on the ball. I thought that was tremendous. And then you kind of turn around, you continue to watch the film, see him do really good things in the run game where, all right, he's a guy I thought he could have maybe on his one play as kind of a reverse to the receiver. He maybe could have crack replaced a little sooner, but he did a tremendous job of, one, being a contained guy. All right, kept his outside shoulder free, kept his shoulders parallel to the line of scrimmage square while he squeezed down the line of scrimmage. And then as the blockers were coming, he dove down in underneath those guys and made a tackle. Big time play that shows, you know what, I'm not going to get watched out of plays. I really want to be involved in the run game. Now, most scouts tell you, hey, we're not paying him to tackle. We want to see how he covers. And I think at the line of scrimmage, terrific press man guy, that his feet were good, hips were good. There were a couple times with his feet where I just saw him maybe be a little bit impatient and get too far upfield where he got turned around at the line of scrimmage. Wasn't something that I saw consistently. Didn't see any issues with him running with guys vertically down the field. Maybe not the most sudden guy. Maybe not the most twitched up guy. But if he can play with anticipation, that won't be an issue. And I thought more times than not, his technique was really sound. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Patrick Surtain. Not saying he's Patrick Surtain, obviously. I mean, we're talking about a top 10 pick and Surtain the second. Maybe not to that caliber. But one thing I remember when watching Patrick Surtain's film was, man, he's just always in position. Not the most twitched up guy. And I kind of dropped him to, what was he, my CB3 in that class because that wasn't the most twitched up guy. Wasn't the most sudden guy. But he did a really good job of, one, being patient, being able to get hands-on at the line of scrimmage, watch guys down, and typically play good. And I liked his versatility, be able to play outside and inside. Now, Amour-Davis, I didn't see him play inside. So I don't know if he has like the nickel value, but just in the sense of potentially a day two pick, a guy who possesses the athleticism to be able to run vertically with receivers. He did a terrific job with that. There was one other thing that I really liked about him. I thought from a press bail standpoint or just in the bail in general, he did a good job of reading down receivers. A lot of times when guys are bailing out, they have this kind of knack or habit of just bailing out into space, regardless of what the receiver is doing, how hard is he coming off of the line of scrimmage. I thought Amour-Davis did a really good job of, okay, he's bailing out, but you know what? I'm not just going to run out of there. I'm kind of have my eye on him and my peripheral, seeing through him to the quarterback. I'm able to kind of sit on the route a little bit. And if he breaks down, I break down. I thought he did that consistently. There weren't too many times where he's just playing bail out in space and isn't giving himself a chance to potentially make a play on the ball if the receiver is targeted. So that's something I just saw on Jalyn Armour-Davis's film while evaluating him. I think he's going to be a terrific day 2 prospect. I know a lot of guys in that area who I've spoken to really like his ability. They really call him a technician. The feet, they point to those things and say that it's consistent throughout any film that you watch. The 3 games that I put on definitely saw some consistency there. And I think this is a guy who was very much missed in the college football playoffs. He didn't play in that championship game. I think they missed him in that game. And obviously, we saw the results of that. Alabama ended up losing. So, potential day 2 guy. Is he a second-round pick? Is he a third-round pick? I don't know. I'll probably know a little bit more the more film I dive into, but definitely a lot of really encouraging things on film. All right, when we come back, got one more guy we're going to get to. Damarri Mathis, cornerback out of Pittsburgh. I kind of got called out by his mom. Mom called me out on Twitter. We're going to get into that story and much more about the prospect. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about Built Bar. All right. And right now, I know it's that time of the year. We're in March now, and we're closing in on April. So a lot of people have really given up on their New Year's resolutions. But Built Bar, that's going to help you stay packed with that. All right. Have you tried the Built Bar Puffs? If you haven't, you are missing out on one of the best Built Bars that they have. And not just the best Built Bars. It's one of the best protein infused bars. All right. The Puffs are the first ever protein infused marshmallow. They are fluffy. They are marshmallowy. They are not just a protein. They are a treat. And they are covered in 100% real chocolate. Yes, real chocolate. Puffs are a fan favorite with some incredible flavors. Yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. They're all so good, and they're going to be your new favorite. All right, all Built Bars are covered in 100% chocolate, and yes, that includes the Built Bar Puffs. All right, they are low in calorie, high in protein, and they replace any candy bar that you have because they're better. They taste good, and they're better for you. All right, a typical candy bar can be anywhere from 200 to 300 calories. That's not good. All right, go to Built.com and scroll down to the macros chart. If you're in the counting your macros, you'll be blown away by what you see. I mean, high in protein, low in calorie, high in fiber, and low in carbs. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, not bad, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. All right, compare that to a candy bar. You're not getting the protein elements to it. And I mean, way too many calories, 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, dozens of net carbs. Stuff's not good for you. All right, mint brownie, coconut almond, and the new one all the time, including white chocolate cookies and cream. They are delicious. And they always come out with new flavors all the time. And if you think that there's a flavor that you think might be good, they'll make it. And if they do, it'll be delicious. At Built Bar, they are all about the taste. All right. They make it delicious first. They want it to taste good. And then they'll figure out how to make it healthy. I don't know how they do it, but they pull it off every time. They do not miss. All right. Go to Built.com right now. Use promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off of your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Damarri Mathis. All right. This is a guy who, I had some focus players that I was really, looking forward to watching at the Senior Bowl. And, some cornerbacks, Kobe Bryant, some receivers, Christian Watson, Calvin Austin. All right. One guy that I wasn't focused on was Damarri Mathis. All right. Number 21 out of Pittsburgh. But I'm watching one-on-ones. I see number 21 out there. I wasn't even aware of who he was or what the helmet was. I see him make a play on the ball. Okay. Like that play by number 21. Then I see him make another play and another play. I see him play off. I see him play press. I see him play in the slot. I'm like, who is this guy? I like him. And I noted it on social media. I said, man, there's this guy here. And I had to Google who he was. Damarri Mathis out of Pittsburgh. He's doing a tremendous job here this week at the Senior Bowl. And I got a lot of responses. And people were like, yeah, he's doing great. He's doing a good job. Everybody liked him. His teammates, they all came out in support on my tweet. One of his former coaches talked a lot about the player that he was and how much of a dog he was and a hard worker. I thought I saw all those things carry over to Senior Bowl week and show me, what, this is a guy that we definitely should be talking about. But I ain't talking about him fast enough because his mom came out, and this is a guy who at the combine ran 4.39. All right, has solid size for sure. 5'11", I believe it is, around 190 pounds. I mean, like 95 pounds. He has the size, and then went to the combine and ran a 4.39, just like Jalyn Armour-Davis. And I get a tweet from his mom tagging me, of all people, saying, listen, nobody's talking about my son. I'm gonna put some respect on my. He just went to the combine. He ran 4.39. He's been really good in the ACC. Why is nobody talking about him? Put some respect on my son's name. So here I am talking about some of the things that I saw from Damarri Mathis, cornerback out of Pittsburgh. All right, one thing that jumped out right away: willing tackler, very willing tackler. I talked about Jalyn Armour-Davis, maybe not crack replacing quick enough. Didn't have that issue with Damarri Mathis. Came off the edge, squeezed down. You see the receiver squeeze down. He came, he filled that hole, tackles. All right, so he's willing to definitely throw his body around. That was one thing that was really good. I talked about some of his athletic ability, 4.3, 940. That's awesome. What was even better, 43 and a half inch vert, 11-1 broad jump. This guy is a physical freak from an athletic standpoint. All right. I think he had a good feel as a zone bell corner. Maybe not as good as Jalyn Armour-Davis. All right. That was one thing I saw different. At times, you could see Damarri Mathis maybe sometimes fall off and not really squeeze receivers. He can improve on that. Those are things you can teach. You can coach that up. And I'm really big on that. What can I teach? What can't I teach? I can't teach that freakish athleticism he has, being able to run vertically downfield with receivers who I saw him do it with ease. He had no issues. I like how they did a lot of different things there at Pittsburgh. He played off. He played man. He played press. He pressed bail. You got to see a lot of it. I thought in cover 2, there were a few times watching some of the films that I had where, they tried to high-low him, and I thought they did a good job of him getting the ball right over his head where, it's like, we're reading you. We're reading you. If you're shallow, we're gonna throw it over your head. If you are too far back, then we're gonna take this underneath pass. Well, make them take the underneath pass, rally down and tackle because he had no issues with his physicality. I think that was an area where he definitely just could improve a little bit from an eye discipline standpoint or just a feel understanding. But again, I can teach that. I thought he ran with receivers downfield well. He could play field. He could play boundary. No issues there. All right. This is a guy who I'm curious to see how do the NFL scouts and guys view him, because from what I see is a guy that has big time ability, play press. Again, sometimes too much versus single side, bails too much from single side. That was one of the notes that I have. And what I mean by that is a lot of times in zone, you're reading your keys. All right. So I'm reading a lot of times 2-1. All right. If 2 goes away right now, then I can squeeze one. If 2 is going up the field, then okay, I got to kind of keep syncing with that, even if I'm playing softer on 1. All right. That's fine. I get it. But when there is no 2 there and you're still press bailing out because you have zone, well, you have nobody else to threaten your zone. So at that point, you need to maybe squeeze your number 1 guy a little bit more. And I thought there were times where Damarri Mathis could have done that. But again, I can teach that. I can coach that. There were some things, again, on film that I saw where he can kind of improve. But from the standpoint of things that I can't teach or coach, where his ability to really be confident in man press, run with guys, bailing out, staying on top of guys, running vertically down the field, his elite athleticism that he put on display, I can't teach that. So this is another guy who I believe should probably be viewed more in that day 2 range, rounds 2, rounds 3. Him and Jalyn Armour-Davis, those guys should be flying off the board at that point. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Show. I want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And for your second listen of the day, go listen to Locked On 49ers with myself and Brian Peacock. Also, listen to Locked On Chiefs with my guy, Ryan Tracy, my host. Not with me today, but we'll be back Monday with a mock draft. And for the rest of the week, we're still going to be profiling these teams, early draft picks, things like that. Where should your favorite prospect go? All that and more right here. Keep it locked. Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.